Welcome everyone to creating a new journey. I'm going to be creating a personal art journal, and it's going to be of mandalas. And I'm going to use a series of squares to divide up the space. Normally you would have to measure your page, and you're going to have to find the center of each side of the page to be able to get the intersecting lines. And by using the squares, it takes some of the guesswork out of it. So I've already created the cover of my journal, and this was all freehand. I did have to find the intersecting lines and the center lines of the cover, but I'm going to show you how I do it with squares. So let me tilt you down. Now, I've already started one page, and you can see how the squares have divided up the space for me, and then I just start to put in the shapes that I'm going to be using. But let me show you how I do this. So I'm going to take a square, and I can take as big of a square as I would like. And you can use any kind of material you like, any kind of hard material. And I've just used a paper cutter to cut up my square. And I just sort of eyeball it that it's in the center of my paper. And since this is a personal journal, it doesn't have to be precise. It's just for me, to help me relax and meditate. And I'm just going to outline it lightly with my pencil. Once I have the outline, I'm going to come to each corner, and I'm going to put a little tick mark in the corners, and that will help me find my center point. So I'm going to take a ruler, any straight edge will do, and I'm going to I'm going to line up my tick marks. Now I could make this line come past the square if I chose to. Now I will have to find the center point at the top and at the bottom and on each side. This square is 7 inches by 7, so the center mark is going to be 3.5. Then I'll just line up the marks. Then I'll need to do the same on the sides. And I don't worry if it doesn't come out exactly perfect. Like I said, it's just a personal journal. But that's pretty close in the center. Okay, now I'm going to put my next square. I can either choose to put a small or a large, and I'm going to put a larger one. All I have to do is make sure that my corners of my square line up with the lines that are at each end. And it's pretty close. See, they need to line up at each corner. And again, this will help me in dividing up my space. Now, usually with my students, they prefer doing it this way because when they have to divide up the space on a complete blank sheet of paper, they have a harder time. The squares just make it a little bit easier for them. And to tell you the truth, I sort of prefer this method the best. Just line them up. Now, I have a series of stencils here. And these stencils, they already have center marks. So if I choose to use one of those, I can. That's my dog, you can hear him. He hears the neighbors. And I have another stencil here. This also has little tick marks or center marks, but they're just clear. And I can choose to do maybe an oval. This is a little bit harder. It's hard for me to see. Now, you can see where all the lines are centered. They all intersect. Now I can start to create some free forms in here, some shapes, just doing it freehand, or I can continue to do some kind of circular pattern or oval pattern. These also have nice curve lines on them, so I could choose to do something with a curved line. It's really up to you, however you would like to do it. But this is an easy way to divide up the space without having to do a lot of measurement. Because the only measurement I did was to find the center mark here on the sides and the top and bottom. I didn't have to worry about anything else. And then when I lined up the rest of the shapes, I just used the lines to go by. So, going back to this piece here. Now, I like to work with pencil just in case I need to reshape something. I can always erase it once I've put the ink in. Like when I was creating this little petal form right here, this side was narrower than this side, so then I went back and just drew it a little bit wider. Now, I'm not going to erase that yet until I put in my black ink. So I just leave the erasing for the very end, and this is a little bit dark as far as pencil line goes, but I want you to be able to see it on the camera. But you're going to want to work lightly, so that way at the end when you go to erase, you don't have to worry about your pencil line showing. And I'm actually going to use a watercolor pencil when I lay my color in, and I'm going to use these Prismacolor pencils to get different tones and different values. I want to be able to create some shading from light to dark, so I think the watercolor pencils will allow me to do that. Now, I've never used this kind of paper before, but it's sort of heavy, so I think it'll be okay as far as the watercolor goes. But again, this is the personal journal, so I'm not too worried about the paper itself. And I'm going to also embellish the piece of artwork with either a poem or affirmation or a saying of the day. And I'm also going to pay attention to the colors that I use. Let's say I want to use pinks and reds and some magenta, that pinkish purple color. Those are all colors of love. So maybe this piece has to do with love A lot of times the colors that we use have to do with our mood. They say something about us. So I'm going to be paying attention to the colors that I'm going to use on each piece. And then I'm also going to pay attention to the thoughts that come into my mind as far as what the writing might say. So that might tell me how I felt that day, or how the outcome of the piece of artwork, what the outcome of it is. So this is a personal journal that I'm going to be doing, and I'll take you along this process, and I'll keep you posted and share what I create. So take the time and explore creating a medallia and see what you come up with. So take the time to create a little bit for yourself today, or just sit outside and enjoy nature. Have a great day.